Yeah,
I'm
what's
going to
the
tell you right
contradiction?
now. The contradiction within the
Yeah,
Quran. So I'm not going to tell you my
yeah,
name. What is this about? Oh, I have to tell you my name. What is this? I have to tell you where I'm
okay, go
from.
on, go on,
I have a
go on,
contradiction within your religion. Why don't we
go
fix
on,
it?
go on.
Okay, bro, you have to say what kind of contradiction
Yeah,
do
go
you
on.
find?
My God, bro. Chill out.
It's a contradiction within your Quran that I found,
Yeah,
referring to
Mm-hmm.
the end of times. What will happen to people?
yeah.
Sorry, could you repeat?
Referring to the end of times.
Yeah, yeah.
End of the time. Okay, you have to say. You have to describe, explain what kind of
Yeah, I'm
the
going to do that. Of
surah.
course, I'm not. Of course, yeah. I'm getting into that. All right. So here it says in 7. We'll go for 17:15 first. Right, it tells us, right, whoever. Let it be less blurry. Give it a second. All right. Whoever is rightly guided is guided only for himself, and whoever goes astray only against himself. No one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. If somebody is bearing a burden, they cannot bear the burden of another person. And if somebody is led astray, they cannot. That being led astray only goes to himself. It doesn't go to somebody else. And when it says whoever is rightly guided is guided only for himself, his reward will only go towards himself. We have in 1625, right, that it says that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection. And on top of those burdens that they're bearing will be some of the burdens of those whom they led astray without their realizing it. Evil is what they will bear. In this verse, it contradicts it 2 times. It says no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. Are these people bearing burdens first? Yes. It says that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection. And on top of those burdens will be other burdens are not those theirs, but the burdens will be of those whom they misled or led astray. We have in 17:15 also saying, and whoever goes astray only against himself. We have here where it says, right, that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection, and on top of those burdens will be the other burdens of those whom they misled, right, whom they led astray without their realizing it. It's a clear contradiction, and it contradicts it in 2 different ways.
Mhm.
So do you really like type it in ChatGPT? Really?
No, why would I type this in ChatGPT?
Yeah. I thought that. Yeah, you did it.
No, why would I do that?
Yeah, you did it, bro.
No. You're saying I did this in ChatGPT?
Yeah,
No, I
I
didn't.
told it not.
Bro.
No, this is not
you have to-
ChatGPT. This is a
Okay,
Quran.
okay. I will say one thing. Like there is no one can find any contradiction in Quran. Like
I just found
that,
one.
like no. That
That doesn't fix the contradiction. You telling me that nobody will find a contradiction? I just found one. What are you talking about? It says in this one verse, right, that it says, whoever is rightly guided is guided only for himself. His reward will only go to himself. And whoever goes astray only against himself. Him going astray is only going to be him. His punishment will only go to himself. No one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. This one says that people will bear burdens. That means they can't bear burdens according to the other verse. But what happens on top of those burdens that they bear will be other burdens that are not theirs, but of those whom they led astray. This verse contradicts the other one in 2 different ways. Just found 2 contradictions in your Quran. In 2 verses, I found 2 contradictions.
Explain yourself. Like, how did he?
I just explained it. So the way it contradicts it, right, is that it says that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection. And on top of those burdens will be other burdens. They're not theirs, but of those whom they led astray. In this verse, it says they cannot do that. It says, if you are led astray, and whoever goes astray only against himself. What does this one say? Right? If you are led astray, the person who led astray will bear your burdens. What does it say? If no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. What does it say here? Right? That they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection. That means they can't bear other burdens. But what happens on top of those burdens that they already bear will be other burdens that are not theirs, but of those whom they led astray. Alhamdulillah, it contradicts itself.
What's the other Quran? Like
1625, 1715. 1715.
1715. Okay.
Yes.
Wait.
We have scholars also telling us that this is a contradiction. Let's read, right? This is, right,
Like Christian
the Quran. Yes, this is Arthur Jeffrey. I didn't get this from ChatGPT. I got this from actual scholars. Anyways, he says what? What does he say? Right? This is in contradiction. What is he talking about? Surah 16. Where does it say that? Up here. Surah 16. Right? What does he say? This is in contradiction with the oft repeated statement that no burdened soul will bear the burden of another. But that statement seems meant to exclude hope in a redeemer who will take on himself the guilt of others, whereas the meaning is that some of the guilt of those led astray will be placed on those who have led them astray. What does he say? He notices that this verse is saying that people that are bearing burdens can't bear the burden of another. And it says in one verse, right, if whoever goes astray, right, will be only led astray against himself. And then this verse says, if you are led astray, Your burdens will be upon the person who led you astray. He says this is in contradiction with the often repeated statement that no burdened soul will bear the burden of another. Just like I said, alhamdulillah.
That's the only one?
What do you mean the only one?
Do you have any? That's only one contradiction you have in Quran? Bro,
this is not the only contradiction. Quran, wait, whoa. This is not the only contradiction in the Quran I have, but are you saying that this is a contradiction? When it says that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection, and on top of those burdens that they're bearing will be other burdens that are not theirs, but those whom they led astray. This one says that if you are led astray, your led astray will only go against himself. Your punishment will only go to yourself, and no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. If you are bearing a burden, this one says that they bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection. According to 17:15, if we're gonna say that Allah's statement is true, if you are bearing a burden, you can't bear the burden of another. These people are bearing burdens fully, will bear other burdens that are not theirs, and the burdens will be those whom they led astray. This verse says that if you are led astray, you doesn't matter. Whoever goes astray goes astray only against himself. Alhamdulillah, no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. This one very clearly contradicts the other Quran verse two ways. Are you going to concede or not?
No, it's not a contradiction, bro.
How is it not a contradiction? Fix it.
It's not, bro.
Okay, it is, because it says that. Okay, are these people bearing burdens? When it says that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection, are they bearing burdens? It literally says that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection. Are they bearing burdens? Yes, they are, right? So what happens? If you bear burdens, right, according to 17:15, no one bearing burdens bears the burden of another. What does this verse say? That they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection. They are bearing burdens, and their burdens will be bared fully. If they're bearing burdens, they can't bear the burden of another. What does it say? On top of those burdens that they're bearing fully will be other burdens that are not theirs, but those whom they led astray. The other verse says clearly, right, that listen, and whoever goes astray only against himself. I can give you tafsirs on this, Akhi. What do you mean? I'm gonna scream it louder because it seems like you've been hit in the head. It's a contradiction. Why are you talking when this other guy should be talking?
Get out the same thing. Why you are saying the same thing, man?
I ain't saying the same thing because this guy literally just said it's not a contradiction when it is a contradiction.
Let me tell you why it's not a contradiction.
Okay, tell me why. Tell me why.
First of all, don't interrupt me and don't be excited, okay? The thing is, okay. The thing is, you cannot cherry pick Quranic lines, out of the context and then say it's a contradiction. You didn't even read the previous lines or the after lines. You're just cherry picking one line and saying it's contradiction. That's the problem, man.
What do you mean? I'm picking one line. You do realize that your Quran isn't even revealed in chronological order, right?
No, let me tell you what I meant. See,
no, I don't care what you meant. Hold up, pause. I'm going to answer you now. It's my turn to answer, right? You don't just go on and on and on and on, okay? This is a contradiction because it clearly states that this is a principal law, right? Where it says no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. We have this said in your Quran all over the place, right? In 53, 38 to 42, that no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another, right? We have this all over the place, right? Your Quran says it all over the place. I don't need context in 1625 because it gets a principal law that says that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection. On top of those burdens will be other burdens. That in itself is a contradiction to the often repeated statement that no soul will bear the burden of another if they're bearing burdens. No burdened soul will bear the burden of another. This one says that these people are bearing burdens. They are burdened souls, and they're bearing the burden of another soul. That is a contradiction to the often repeated statement in the Quran. Even Arthur Jeffrey even said this. We are even told in this one Quran verse, and also some of the burdens of those whom they led astray. This one Quran verse goes against multiple Quran verses and one Quran verse in two different ways. 17:15 clearly says that and whoever goes astray only against himself. No one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. You're coming to me telling me that I need to get context. I know the context because I've read the tafsirs on this. We could go to the tafsirs. I know the context. I know what the scholars say. I know what this is about.
Fine, man. The problem with you is this: you say the same thing over and over again just to make people excited. And let me tell you.
Okay, are you going to answer the contradiction? This doesn't answer the contradiction. I have destroyed your last statement where I need to get context. It is a principal law. It's a principal law about the end of times about how no soul will bear the burden of another.
You're not letting me speak, man.
I literally said, this guy came to me and said, what is the contradiction about? I said clearly that it's about the day of resurrection and how people will be punished.
Have a good day with your scam, man.
Alhamdulillah. Salamu alaikum. Fucking dog. He leaves. That's him taking his leave. Right? Does anybody else want to give this a try?
Okay, are you Christian, right?
Yes, I'm Christian. Why does that matter?
No, are you Christian? I'm asking.
Just said I'm Christian. Do I need to say it again?
Okay. We have a contradiction, right?
You have a contradiction in the Quran, yes. I just gave you one.
Yeah. And in the Bible?
You can see that it's a contradiction, though. Dude, wait, in the Bible, don't do... Wait. For the life of me. Do not appeal to logical fallacies and move the subject.
What? How did
do not appeal to logical fallacies. Do not do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Bro. Yeah, that's it.
No, don't do it.
You're
No,
afraid,
because if
right?
you say
You're afraid.
because if you want to go to contradictions in the Bible, if you want to go to contradictions in the Bible, you are not addressing what my argument at all, and you're just shifting the goalposts to a different on me, right? If you want to talk about the Bible, we can do that. But I would like you to either concede that this is a contradiction or fix it before we move to a different subject. Is this a contradiction in the Quran?
It is not. It is
Then
not.
how's it? Then fix it before you move on to a different subject. Fix it, because I see that it's a contradiction when it says clearly that they may bear their burdens fully on the day of resurrection, and on top of those burdens, right, there will be other burdens of those whom they led astray. I gave you Quran verse 17:15 where it says that if you are led astray, it doesn't matter. Your punishment will only go to yourself. But no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. Are these people bearing burdens? It says that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection. Yes, they are bearing burdens. Okay, what does it say about people that are bearing burdens? No one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. What does it say? That they may bear their burdens fully on the day of resurrection. On top of those burdens will be other burdens of others. Alhamdulillah.
Bro.
Fix it, and we can move to the Bible.
Okay.
But until you say it's either contradiction or fix it, or say concede.
Wait. It is not.
Wait.
Because some scholars
Okay, then
argue
fix
that this apparent contradiction is resolved by understanding that while no one directly bears the sins of another, leaders and those who incite evil bear the responsibility for the sins committed by those they lead or influence. They are responsible for setting up the conditions that lead to the sins, and they are held accountable for the consequences. Understand
So
now?
people are held okay, thank you for bringing that up. Thank you. Okay, so what does it say here, right? It says that if you're held accountable for your consequences. That is right here. It says whoever goes astray goes astray only against himself. His consequences will only go to himself. We have tafsirs on this that I could go to. Right? When it says no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another, your explanation failed to even represent my first argument, where I said that these people are bearing burdens fully on the day of resurrection. On top of those burdens are other burdens. That contradicts the often repeated statement inside the Quran, where what? It says, and no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. These people are bearing burdens, and they're also bearing the burdens of another. What does it say? In other verses, no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. No one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. And no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. We see this in the often repeated statement in the Quran. Address the actual argument. Address the first argument, where it says that where it says that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection. Are they bearing burdens? Yes. Then they can't bear the burdens. Bear other burdens are not theirs, according to the often repeated statement in the Quran. Otherwise, it will be a contradiction inside of the Quran and be an internal contradiction. What are they doing? And also on top of those burdens are theirs, will be other burdens are not theirs, but those whom they led astray. This contradicts the often repeated statement inside the Quran in several verses, and 17:15 where it says and whoever goes astray only against himself. Whoever goes astray only against himself. You telling me that people will bear their own consequences? Why are these people bearing other consequences that are not theirs? Why are they bearing consequences that are not theirs? If you literally just said that they may bear their own consequences. It says that, right? According to the often repeated statement in the Quran. Hi, leave this group immediately. Hi, leave this group. Hi, I'm a hacker. What is this shit? Get out, pussy. See how stupid Muslims are? You guys are a bunch of pussies. Get out. Leave this group immediately. I'm a hacker. Don't leave this group. Everybody stay here. Stay here now. I'm imprisoning you all. You're under my command. Now, you monster, the broke, answer my question. Right here, your explanation to fix this contradiction has completely fumbled and failed. Why does your explanation bring more problems than fixing it? Right? You literally told me, right, that if you're gonna have your own consequences and people are gonna bear their own consequences, then why is some people bearing consequences that is not theirs, even though they're having consequences for themselves? Lewis says that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection. On top of those burdens are also will be other burdens are not theirs, but of those whom they led astray. According to the often repeated statement inside the Quran, this cannot be so.
Let me talk.
Talk! You're not doing a lot of talking.
Like how individuals can be burdened with sins not their own due to their involvement in evil.
1625 that literally says that they can. Literally says that they may bear their own burdens. Are they bearing burdens? Yes,
the
they
verse
are.
is often interpreted in the
fully.
context of leaders bearing the sins of their followers when they incite them to do wrong. Okay?
But that goes again. That's a contradiction statement according to 17:15, where it says that whoever goes astray only against himself. Yes, tafsirs. That's what the tafsirs. That's what the tafsirs say when it says goes astray. It's talking about in disbelief and having a punishment. If you're gonna go in disbelief, that going in disbelief is only gonna go to you. That soul's gonna earn his punishment to himself. If he goes rightly guided, that reward will only go to himself. It's about the end of days, right? Like I said, it's a contradiction about the end of times. These two statements can't possibly be. These two statements can't simultaneously possibly be so.
Like
These two statements can't simultaneously be so. It's not possible.
The verse is interpreted in the context of leaders bearing the sins of their followers when they incite them to do wrong. Okay.
It's on the verse is about the day of resurrection, and some people will bear their own burdens fully. On top of those burdens will be other burdens of those whom they led astray. This is in contradiction to the often repeated statement. Do I have to go again? Right? And no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. What are these people doing? Bearing burdens. What can they not do? Bear the burden of others. They're bearing burdens of those whom they led astray. Going against 17:15, where it says, and whoever goes astray only against himself. If one is led astray, that person's disbelief is going to go to that person's soul. Right? And it doesn't matter what you're bringing up. Because the often repeated statement that no one bearing a burden in the Quran will bear the burden of another, that often repeated statement is in contradiction in this verse. Doesn't work out. This ayah is in contradiction to the often repeated statement that no soul will bear the burden of another. No burdened soul will bear the burden of another. It's a contradiction because they're bearing burdens fully. That means they can't bear burdens, according to at least 17 different Quran verses. 17 different ayahs say it.
I'm still thinking like you're just putting some words.
I'm putting some words. What do you mean? This is in the Quran. Okay. I'm not doing it.
Context.
The context doesn't matter. I have the tafsirs. Okay, you want to go on context? Let's go to the tafsirs. I'm done with this. We're going to the tafsirs. You're pissing me off too much. 17, 15.
Yeah.
Right? Ayah 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 15. What does it say? Golly, dude. Let's go to the Kathir. You trust Kathir?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. What does he say? Right? Here it says, whoever is guided, follows the truth, and trod the footsteps of the prophethood, then the good outcome of that is for himself. And whoever goes astray, then he only brings his own burden upon himself. If he goes astray, his burden will be upon himself. The Quran verses 16:25, however, says differently. It says that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection, and on top of those burdens will be other burdens of those whom they led astray. The people that are led astray will have their burdens lifted from them and put upon the people that led them astray. According to 17:15 of Ibn Kathir, this cannot be so. Let's go to Ibn Kathir, what he says about 16:25, and watch him contradict himself. 16:25. Ayah 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25. Right here, what does he say? Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Allah the Almighty says, right, that they may bear their own burdens fully on the day of resurrection, and also some of the burdens of those whom they misled without knowledge, so that they may bear their own burdens and some of the burdens of those whom they follow them and agree with them. That is the sin of their own misguidance and the sin of their misleading others. We just read, right? Let's go back to the 17:15 so you can see the contradiction at play. What does he say? 17:15. What does he say?
You need to read all, bro.
Look what it says. Then good is outcome from self. And whoever goes astray, right, then he only brings his own burden upon himself. If he is led astray, he only bears his own burden. That burden is only upon himself. This is an often repeated statement in the Quran. He contradicts it in his ayah. I don't need to appeal to this. You don't know what's going on in the Quran. Go to the context. The context is about the day of resurrection and how some people bear burdens, right? There will be a group of people that will bear burdens of the people that they led astray. This goes against an often repeated statement that if a soul is burdened, that soul cannot bear the burden of another. These people are bearing their burdens fully on the day of resurrection, and also some of the burdens of those whom they led astray. This is a clear contradiction to the often repeated statement inside the Quran, where it says, and no one bearing a burden bears the burden of another. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So your point is that the Quran is wrong, right?
My point is that the Quran has a contradiction in it, and it says if you find these contradictions,
So,
then you will notice that it's from any other than Allah.
So your point is that Quran is wrong, right? That's
Alhamdulillah.
your point.
Yeah, it is. Of course it's wrong. It has contradictions in it. Yeah.
So the Bible is true. It's the truth, right?
Dude. Again.
So?
Again. Don't do these logical fallacies, bro. Stick to the topic. Either concede that this is a contradiction inside your beloved Quran, or you say that this is not a contradiction and fix it in a way that you haven't already failed it, right? You failed at fixing this contradiction how many times now? Give it another try, or you can say this is a contradiction and concede, and we can move on to the Bible.
It's not, bro.
It's not a contradiction. Then fix it. Fix it then.
I can't fix it. It's like that.
Then go fuck yourself. Then just go fuck yourself, then, bro. What do you mean I can't? Oh, it's a contradiction. It's not a contradiction, but I can't fix it.
Yeah, that is.
Go away. Just go away. So stupid. You see what I'm dealing with? Let's talk about the Bible. Oh, let's talk. Fucking dumb.